Hello and welcome back to the Manifesting Millions podcast. I am your host, Amy Van Meel. I'm delighted to be here with you. I am still figuring out my podcasting setup now that I'm also doing some YouTube videos. So for those of you who are on YouTube, if you see me glancing down and to the left, it's because I keep looking at the camera. Sorry, not the camera, but the feed. So anyway, okay. So today my goal is to pop in with another quick, short episode. If you listened to or watched the last episode, hopefully it was a nice short one full of great information and knowledge for you. Today I want to, today's episode was inspired by Manifestation Babe, who have followed for years, love the podcast. I have a number of her courses and just greatly admire. So anytime I get to hang out with her virtually through courses or through podcasts or through the Instagrams, I always feel super connected. But there's a couple things that she shared an episode recently about a manifestation and sharing like, how did that manifestation feel? And it gave me this insight of, I kind of want to share the same thing, but in a different way. Not a different way, on my own manifestation. Recently, so we're in December, that would make it sort of maybe 4 months ago, I released all the rest of my leveraged money. I paid off more than $25,000 in debt that I had been working on for a while. I'm not going into the how. That's not what today's episode is about. What I want to talk about today is how that felt when I manifested it. So, and I'm going to get into why I want to share that message in particular. So, my entire adult life, I have carried debt. I started referring to it as leveraged money several years ago, following some knowledge that I learned from Manifestation Babe and a few different teachers. This idea that like debt is not helpful. It's money that's leveraged. It's just financial tools, really. I've carried this literally as long as I can, like as far back as I can remember. I do not know if there was a time in my adult life that I did not have leveraged money of some kind. So to manifest this coming into existence, and let me tell you, way earlier, like probably at least a year and a half earlier than I had set up my finances to do. That was wild to me to see this timeline just suddenly shortened, was like mind-boggling. When I envisioned what that would feel like, everything we hear about manifestation is like really focus on what's the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Really embody that. What does that feel like? So years ago, so many early teachers that I came in contact with really taught that like the feeling of our desires manifesting is like super exciting and we need to be excited, and it's like get all this joy and this like almost like hysteria kind of energy behind our manifestations. Our intentions have manifested. And it never felt really true for me. I couldn't figure out why does that not feel aligned for me? But it just didn't. But I wanted very much to have my desires manifest, so I tried this. And eventually I realized, I don't know how, it doesn't matter how, that actually for me very often, the feeling of many of my desires manifesting wasn't this like hysteria, excitement, party kind of wild energy. It was actually super calm, like just chill calm, like you're sitting next to a very peaceful lake or ocean. The sun is shining, everything's great, the temperature's comfortable, very calm. You're just like blissed out. That's when I realized that was the feeling that I actually desired. It shifted things big time for me as I started really visualizing my manifestations coming into realization. So when I was visualizing, intending, kind of feeling into the
the reality where I no longer had leveraged money, where all leveraged money was returned, and I was now financially positive, or at least financially neutral, right? Like I in my mind, I saw it as like coming to the ground floor. We're now, okay, I now have opportunities. I could go down, I could go up, I could go in any direction, but like I now feel like I've set myself on a solid foundation. When I imagine that, I imagine the moment of initially seeing that happen as being kind of momentous and feeling excitement about it. I also very much worried that I was going to like do something wrong and go back into debt, which is a belief and I'll just leave it as a belief that I worked on earlier before I actually manifested the 3D reality where I was now, no longer carrying leveraged money. I worked on that before, which was amazing. But like beyond that, I wasn't quite sure. It was just kind of neutral. It's like, okay, now it's the springboard to the next. One of the things that I forgot until like today or the last 24 hours that I had intended when I lost my train of thought, because for a second there I just realized all my notifications are on and I didn't want everything to start binging. Let me come back to you. When I was thinking about, okay, so the debt is all paid off. I no longer carry leveraged money. What does that look like now? What do I do next? I recall that I actually had set the intention that, I actually just want to kind of sit there for a moment. I want to just allow that to normalize, allow my body and my mind to become used to that state before I jet off and like create this massive financial abundance. So, cue the last 4 months. I have been living leveraged money free for, I don't know what the date is, but like 4 months, approaching maybe a little bit more. And it's been such an interesting space. I mean, there's been a tremendous amount of stuff that's been going on in my life. So that is, that's not to dismiss that at all. But literally, I did not remember until today that I had set this intention that once I reached that financial sort of parity, I suppose is a good way to look at it, that I actually intended to just allow myself to normalize that and be in stasis for a moment. Just allow that to be. I have been feeling this like chafing, which at times presents as worry or anxiety, but this sense of chafing at the bit that like, okay, I've just finished, like, I've paid off the leverage money. Why am I not getting faster onto the next thing? What's happening next? And all of a sudden today I realized, oh my God, Amy, you dum-dum. You wanted to have this time to just be in this financial neutrality before you started creating the massive abundance that you're on your way to. You wanted to experience this neutrality. Once I realized this, like once it popped back into my conscious, because of course it was always in my knowing, it's in some form, I just had forgotten that it was there. Once that came back into my consciousness, I was like, oh, okay. And it suddenly gave me such clarity on this feeling of my manifestation actually having manifested. So in the moment, like when I made that final payment, when that final piece went through and I could see, verifiably on my bank account, yep, we are officially no longer carrying leveraged money. I felt the weight of that moment. I felt the bigness of that moment. I felt a bit of excitement, a little bit of like, oh my God, I almost can't believe this is real, but I know it's real. I felt that it's real. And also I have tangible feedback from the 3D reality that's always running on delay anyway that says, yep, we're done. We've now achieved financial parity. I went, okay, cool. So that's done now. So while I still had the job,
it felt super neutral. It felt super just chill, very calm. I didn't have one of the very interesting things about manifesting this state of financial neutrality. I kind of wondered if I would like suddenly have this like urge to go out and buy things and like, oh, now I have all this money. I can go do this and I can go do this and I can go do that. And that didn't happen. In part because I've been working on that as I've been going over the years. But I also have noticed that as my financial circumstances have become more abundant, my desire to have things, to buy things, really just like consume has reduced. I'm much more intentional with where do I want to send the money that I've received? What does that look like? Where am I investing it into? So that didn't happen, which was very cool. And like, I just felt this peacefulness and calm. Then I can't say it's the final piece because like, who knows? I might have another realization in the future. But one of the big things that really like sunk in for me today, once I realized that not only had I manifested financial neutrality like I had intended, I now was, no longer carrying leveraged money, but I also manifested this space and time to just be at financial neutrality. It starts to bring all the pieces together of like all the happenings that have been happening in my life very, very clear. And I'm like, okay. The other thing that I manifested was it showed up in like a totally different way than I imagined. And that's the very cool thing. So, I can feel my thoughts are starting to scatter. So I'm going to just close this off because I want to, So here we are. Okay. This is Amy in real time, y'all. Creativity is coming through in these like interesting moments of flow. And this is the second episode that I've recorded today. And I think my creativity is like, yo girl, remember those cookies that we were going to go bake? Let's go bake those cookies. Let's do that. I'm also slightly distracted by the fact that like it's nearing the winter equinox, which means that the light is getting darker. So I can just like see the feedback on the screen here where like my office is just getting darker and darker and darker. Okay. So let me wrap this all up. Let's bring this baby home. If you stuck with me so far, thank you for sticking around with me because I'm not editing these. I am just recording and sending them out into the world. I suppose what I want to leave you with is like, think about, what are the desired emotions or states of being that you are intending on as you manifest your desires in. So whether it's financial abundance or parity or you're just wanting to like release weight, I don't know, whatever it is. What is that feeling? Tap into it. Like, does that really feel when you envision yourself in that moment where the desire has manifested? Does that feel true and real to you, or is there this little niggling of like, maybe it's a little bit different? Not ego niggling, not the ego going, no, it's something different. You've missed the boat. Not that kind of niggling. That still quiet knowing that like, oh, okay, maybe it's not this wild hysteria excitement. Maybe it's actually this peaceful, calm, just we've arrived, right? When you're thinking about that, go one step further. Your desire has manifested. Maybe now it's, who cares, a month, a day, a week, 6 months down the road. How are you feeling now? And I suppose like if you were to plant a seed in your mind now, that at that point when that 3D time moment happens, that you're reminded, hey, this is the thing I manifested and look how cool this is. Just kind of play with that a little bit. So anyway, I suppose all I have to say, it wasn't this like wild, crazy party. It didn't go crazy. It wasn't like this like huge,
this huge moment. I happened to share the news with our friends and family the day after our wedding, completely unplanned. We popped a bottle of champagne. It was fantastic. It was a ton of fun, and I'm glad we did it. But like the actual feeling of the desire manifested was very just chill, very calm. And I really loved that, even though it took me a moment to realize that not only did I manifest this financial neutrality, I also manifested the intention to just be in this space for a moment. I realized that was a really like spacious moment, and a lot shifted and transformed and mutated and adjusted as I closed off this huge chapter, this huge book. I like to think of my life as different books. This huge book of my life, and now I'm readying for the next huge book of my life. All right. With that, thank you so much for watching, for listening, for just hanging out and being here with me. Hope to see you soon.